Hey man, how do you work down here all day? It don't even smell a little bit like gasoline.
Hey Daryl, what do you need?
See, I was out in the spider shed, like I do, and I came up with a brilliant idea. One that will quadruple your little mini painting productivity. Just give me your paintbrush.
Okay, all right.
Woo, doggy! Another week, another embarrassing amount of time spent watching shorts on social media. Hey, admitting you have a problem is the first step. But occasionally I come across a mini painting short with a hack or trick that really catches my interest, and I've got to test it out for myself. So today we're going to test out the fad of painting with little makeup sponge eggs and see if they are as game-breaking as those 20-second shorts would have us believe. But first, you know what? I'm sick of everyone else coming up with all these awesome mini painting fads, so it's about time I do it myself. So let me introduce you to the Power Drill Dry Brush. Well, you know what? I don't exactly know how to transition from that, but I will say that this is not just a meme. This actually frickin' works. And to clarify, I'm not actually the inventor of this. I'm sure other people have tried it out, and my patron Braden actually brought it to my attention, and he's been using it on his terrain, so I gotta test this out for myself. All you gotta do is load up your dry brush like you normally would. You want just a bit of moisture on the bristles to keep them from giving that chalky finish on the model. You want to use one of the nicer firm tipped dry brushes for this, no floppy makeup brushes, and I have found that the slightly damp bristles is extra important when you're using it on the drill because we are drilling at high velocity. Once I've loaded the brush with paint and wiped most of it off on a paper towel or a dry brush palette, I load it into the chuck of my power drill and just pull the trigger. You know, before I did this for the very first time, I assumed this would be a hot mess and not really work that well at all. I could not have been more wrong. Why it seems to work so great is that you have full control of how much paint you're putting on your model by how much pressure you're pushing down with. You can go with a very soft buffing over your model, or if you want to put more pressure and go over with more coats, you can really build up to full opacity. Now at this point, I have actually spent quite a bit of time with the Power Drill dry brush, which means I've painted a lot of models with it, and I've got a couple of quick tips that I want you to keep in mind should you want to try it yourself. First things first is the drill you use. Now I use Milwaukee cordless because I think Milwaukee is the best brand on the planet, but you want to make sure that you've got a high quality drill for this use. Now, one thing I really like about the Milwaukee brand is they have a pressure sensitive trigger. So the more pressure I put on the trigger, the faster it spins. So I can really control how much spins I have while I'm trying to work with more delicate sections of the model. Now, the issue with these high quality drills is twofold. First and foremost, they're not exactly cheap, but they are a household expense and you'll be able to use this for the rest of your life for all of your household maintenance. And second, these things aren't light, especially with the lithium batteries attached to it. But what I've found is if I place my drill directly on the padded armrest of my chair, I can actually just use this stable and move the model around instead of the brush to really have full control and not have to carry this thing for hours at a time painting probably thousands of models. Because seriously, if you dry brush with this thing for an hour, you could probably knock out 1,500 models. Now you may think it would be easier to use a different, smaller rotary tool for this purpose, and in theory, you wouldn't be wrong. But the issue is the bit housing for those drills are often very small, and our dry brushes have pretty big, beefy handles, and I don't want to destroy my dry brush by carving it down so it'll fit into the chuck. Any dry brush that I own, even the fat ones, fit directly into this nice drill, easy as is. And sure, the PDD can handle the most basic dry brushing tasks, but what about something slightly more advanced? What we're gonna try to do is take a wall section and make it look properly weathered and grimy and built up to the steel color underneath. I start out by taking my new One Step Rust by Pro Acryl and I slather that all over a primed black piece of terrain. This stuff will dry more in the cracks and corners, and it'll be brighter rust color there, which is the perfect foundation for the next step. Once that's dried, I'm going to load my dry brush up with a very, very dark gray. It's not black, but it's not far away. Then I go over the entire wall with this. I even try to get into the flats of the panels because that rusty color in the corners will be missed by the dry brush and still show that natural fade into the wear. And this is such a good example of how this drill can really work well, even on a slightly more advanced technique. Because it's spinning at a high rate and has a uniform pattern compared to our manual application with the dry brush, the paint actually gives us a much softer, gradual buildup that doesn't even end up looking like dry brushing. The more times I go over an area, the more pressure I put on an area allows me to build up the amount of paint left behind. So I really feel like I've got a good amount of control and I get the outcome I'm looking for so much quicker than manual dry brushing. Now from here, I could go into more advanced techniques with the PDD. Maybe there's a light bulb on the piece of terrain, and I could actually fade in a pure white to make it look like that bright light was shining, and then I could go over with a wash or an airbrush of an orange or yellow glow later and really give the effect of the light. But for this time, I'm just gonna try to give a quick finished looking metal wall, and for that, I bust out any silver metallic, load that into the dry brush, and we give a nice light buffing, focusing around the rivets and edges of this terrain piece. Honestly, I'm not sure if I'll ever go back to painting terrain any other way. This knocks this stuff out so incredibly fast, and it looks better than when I did it by hand before. And of course, that's just kind of the beginning of uses for this tool. For example, maybe you wanted to get an army or a squad painted up quickly, and the best way to do that is to start with a base tone that is the main color of the model, and from there we can use our PDD to put down the color, the bone in this situation, over the entire model to build up that initial color tone. That way we have just the rest of the details to paint, and I could knock out 50 or 100 skeletons in this way incredibly quickly, and then just bring out my contrast paints or whatever paints to finish up the details. Now, I'm not saying that this tool and this technique is usable on every miniature you paint, and even for every miniature painter. If you have models that you want to knock a bunch out of quick, or you paint a lot of terrain, this is a great tool at your disposal. But if you just paint like display models, or you like to take your time painting one model at a time, this probably isn't going to be a ton of use for you. But honestly, most painters that I know would actually really benefit from having this tool on hand for when you need it. Today's video is brought to us by Into the AM, and if you ever see me in a shirt on a video that you think is cool, it's probably by Into the AM, because they keep coming out with awesome shirt designs, and I have a problem with self-control. And to make things worse, they just keep coming out with these great sales, like the big basic tee bundle pack going on right now. And I bought up another pack of these because they're classic, they go with any look, they're so much more flattering in how they fit, and they hold up amazingly over literally dozens of washes. Basically, it didn't matter if I needed new shirts or not, this deal was too good to pass up. Again, self-control. So no matter what, they're going to guarantee to have something that you love or didn't know that you needed, but now you need it anyway. And you can never worry about missing out on the greatest sales or the best pricing, because you can just use my link below, intotheam.com/ninjon at any time, and you're guaranteed with that link to always get the best, lowest price. All right, as much as it pains me to say we're done with the power tool discussion for today, now we're going to talk about these little foam eggs. And I've seen a lot of shorts going around, some of them with up to 1 million views, that show how these things are like the next magic sauce to paint your models looking amazing and quickly. But I have my reservations. We're going to still go through a couple of models and see how well they work. Now, much like the PDD, these seem best suited for larger models like vehicles and stuff like that, but I want to try them on regular sized models first to see how quickly they paint a model, how accurate they are, and how well they can actually blend up a paint transition. One thing I will say is you can buy these in bulk for really cheap ones on like Amazon, but do not fall into that trap. This brand Elf that I got is not expensive anyway, but the quality and the density of the foam is really going to make a big difference, so you don't leave behind a bunch of texture on the more porous versions that you see in the cheap ones. Some important tips that I've learned while messing with these, and the first one is really valuable, and that is that you're going to want to start with an undercoat of an interesting color before egging your model. These things cannot reach into the cracks and crevices, so anything you can't reach better already have an interesting color on it, or it's just going to look like you have an unfinished model when you're done egging it. Next, you're going to want to make sure that your egg is good and saturated before you start this process. I just dunk it in a clean water cup, or you could hold it under the tap, and then you squeeze out all that moisture, most that you can, and then kind of squeeze it in a paper towel too. You don't want it waterlogged, but you want it to still feel slightly damp. The next important thing is when you load this thing up with paint, you first want to thin that paint. I find that roughly 1 part water to 2 part paint is ideal, even with paints that come pre-thinned like Pro Acryl. The reason behind this is these things are meant to blend, which means you need to build up your color and opacity bit by bit. Luckily, that's not going to take you very much time with these things because they cover a lot of real estate really quickly. But not a single dab should give you full opaque coverage. You want to slowly dab over the model, and the more sections you dab with multiple layers, the more you'll build up to that. And that is one of the really key tricks to this. So I dab most of my thinned paint off of my egg on my dry palette first before touching the model. This is extremely important to how well this technique is going to end up looking. And I keep saying the term dab, and that's what you should be doing. Just tapping the model with the egg. Don't swipe, don't put any other motion into it. You're just placing the paint where you want it. Again, you're not going to reach all those cracks and crevices, so don't try to smash the egg into the model. You need to lean into the fact that those shadowed areas are going to stay that way, so leave them untouched. It's super important that we build up over top of that interesting shadow tone that we started with to bring depth to our model. And you can always build up brighter and brighter colors over this initial coat if you want to. And it's gonna work largely just like regular layering. You're just gonna need to do your best to hit the smaller and smaller areas each time you build up to a new color. Don't simply cover everything that you painted before. And that is actually easier said than done. These are not a precise tool. Even though they look like they have a nice sharp tip at the top of the egg, they're still fairly squishy, and so when they touch the model, they lose that precision. Try to think of this as painting with a really large brush. You don't need to attempt to hit all the details. You're just making sure that you're lighting the model correctly from above in what will give you the most interest with the brightest highlights. And I gotta say, for spending like 90 seconds on painting this model, I have a nice dramatic start to a plague marine. And let's not kid ourselves, this technique has a lot of limitations, mainly the fact that you're only going to paint the main color of your model with this. You're not going to get any detail work done. You're not going to work with any of the edges or edge highlighting or any kind of really specific work. It's just to do that initial part of the painting process, create some drama through color with the main color on the model. In a weird way, it is very similar to painting with an airbrush when you're trying to just build up the volumes and the highlights over the main color of the model and not worrying about getting that overspray in other areas. So if you don't have an airbrush or you want a other alternative to airbrushing, this is actually a pretty solid tool for that use. But we are not yet done with seeing the possibilities that we can get out of the egg. The second test I want to perform with these eggs is based on the fact of how they're originally designed to use to apply makeup on the human face, and specifically how they're used to create smooth color transitions. I figure we can test out that similar ability on a larger section of a miniature. So for this situation, I am busting out this dire bat who has these large, interesting wings, and we're gonna create some really natural, cool skin tone color transitions over the top of them and see how well the egg performs. I'm using the Zenithal white over black primer that I put on the bat as my guide here, and I'm starting with the darkest color first. In this case, it is Dark Plum by Pro Acryl, which is part of my signature series set. I find this is one of my favorite go-to shadow tones for skin. I'm gonna paint a bit more of this purple than you'll end up seeing in the final model because I needed to spread it out further into the lighter areas of the wing so I can blend it with the next color. At least that's my plan. I don't have a ton of confidence it's gonna work out, but we're gonna give it a go anyway. From there, I move up to a burgundy as my slightly brighter but still interesting colorful second layer. And like I said, I want to keep some of that plum showing, but I'm dabbing where the two colors meet to fade them into each other because I have my paint thinned and it's building opacity up gradually. You know what, I'd like to say that this worked out well, and honestly, it didn't work out too poorly at all. But one thing I keep running into is the fact that even the smallest egg is pretty large compared to the size of the models we're painting on, and it is really hard to have precision with this thing. You kind of are just letting Jesus take the wheel in this thing and hoping that you're getting that blending in quite the right spot. Obviously, if you're working on a smaller model than this large section, I don't know how much you could actually pull off with this. As I got into the first skin tone, I'm realizing that I fell into a trap that I actively avoided while painting the Plague Marine. You can't physically paint in the cracks and recesses. And since I didn't underpaint this model first with an interesting color, I'm kind of screwed with white and gray showing in the cracks. Sure, I could come in with a brush later and fix these areas, and I probably will. But for now, I'm just trying to focus on how well this blending is able to be executed with just using the eggs. And by the time I'm working up into my brightest skin tone, I'm honestly pretty happy with this. They do blend well if you do your best to work with precision when dabbing in the overlapping colors. You slowly build up those colors with each dab, but because the eggs cover a good bit of the model with each dab, it actually goes pretty fast. And just like our Plague Marine, the blending of colors on the bat wings does give us a high level good blend. Now, what it sacrifices is the actual precision, but I don't necessarily see this as a downside. This is more working with an understanding of the overall color scheme and lighting of your model before you worry about any details. When you only paint with a teeny tiny paintbrush, it can be very easy to get tunnel vision and really focus on smaller details before you need to. If you don't set up your lighting and your interesting color transitions early, those small details aren't gonna matter. So, do these eggs have their uses? Absolutely. I'm glad that I own them, but I don't see myself going back to them each and every model. If I need to knock out a really fun, interesting blend quickly, I can do that. If I want to knock out an entire squad and just get their base color and couple of highlights really vibrant and interesting with very little time, they're great for that as well. But if you own an airbrush and you like to use an airbrush for this kind of larger work, these are just kind of the same without having all of the other potential opportunities to grow and techniques to learn that you can with an airbrush. But that said, airbrushes take up a lot of time and they're really expensive. These are cheap and you can chuck them in the drawer and you don't have to worry about all the other stuff that goes along with owning an airbrush. So yeah, really fun to mess with the eggs. I'm glad I did. I will certainly use them in the future, although I'm not sure exactly when. But when it comes to the PDD, this sucker is something I'm glad that I messed around with, and it really didn't cost me anything else because I already own the drill and I already own the dry brushes. So if you already own both, give it a go. Honestly, my speed dry brushing and terrain work is changed forever because of this guy. So thank you for hanging out with me today where we do another tool testing episode. I appreciate your support by watching the videos, by subscribing to the channel. Heck, even those of you that go out of your way to support me financially a little bit on Patreon, where you can get some fun rewards for just a couple of bucks a month. I have a link to that down below should you want to check it out. Now, I have to get back to dry brushing 1,500 models, which will take me roughly 16 minutes with the PDD. And I'll be back next week with another new video. Just make sure that sometime between now and then, you find time in your day to slay the gray. I am the man of constant sorrow.